Hey, this is Mo Lunsford at Union Grove Lumber Studios.
And this is the Shed Geek. We want to welcome you to today's episode. Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek podcast, and really excited for today's guest, Austin. Looks like hopefully I'm going to be meeting you next week in person, so that's cool. I guess we could have waited and did this then, but probably be pressed on time. But we got it together. We finally made it happen between sickness, Christmas, holidays, everything else going on in the world, the craziness. We got it happen. But do you care to introduce yourself, the name of your company? Maybe tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
So my name's Austin Howard. I run Yardscape backyard buildings and Yardscape metal buildings. So we started in 2021 during COVID and all the craziness with the shed industry. Before that, I was selling modular manufactured homes, and before that, I was in another sales job. So I've been in sales and retail sales for probably over a decade. We've been in business for 4 years now, and this is our fifth year. We started with Kinston, North Carolina, and in the same year, we opened up Holly Ridge, North Carolina. And then we kind of took a hiatus from opening up dealers. And last year, we actually opened up two locations in South Carolina, in Columbia and in Gaffney. So they were kind of pre-existing dealerships that we kind of took over and overhauled from our shed manufacturer, Pineview. And that's a little bit about me as far as in the shed industry. This year, we're trying to focus on just growth within those 4 locations without trying to add more unless a really good location pops up. But other than that, that's pretty much my little story. Like I said, been in sales for a while, and just felt like a few years ago I had the opportunity to start this, and the rest is history.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, obviously, there was a lot of attention drawn to the shed world during COVID. The podcast is coming up on 4 years. It'll be starting our 5th year in March. It's really exciting because we're starting a podcast called the Steel Kings. Me and you talked a little bit about that. Listen to that episode with Jared and the guys over at Dayton Barnes and what they're going to be doing. So that's exciting because we want to be able to reach that side of the industry. It's kind of a sister or a cousin industry, if you will. And there's so many people in sheds that kind of operate in that world and people in that world that operate in our world. And we're going to try to figure out a way to have conversation that's really dynamic content about all those things. But it was the same thing for us, kind of with selling sheds. And believe it or not, I got out of selling sheds directly before COVID hit. So I didn't get all the good times, you know what I mean? Like I didn't get the easy money.
Just bad times.
Yeah. I was struggling, trying to figure things out. And there were so many fewer tools and softwares available at that time to kind of help with your systems and processes. And but we did it, man. We made it work. And and that's what ultimately led to a podcast, right? So we launched that during COVID. And I remember it was certainly a mess as we was traveling around visiting with people. But hey, congrats to you, first of all, for having 4 shed lots immediately in the retail world. 2 in North Carolina, 2 in South Carolina. That's a beast, to take on in your first 4 years. But it sounds like you guys are doing great.
We're doing all right. 2024 was definitely a tough year, and I think anybody that you talk to in the shed industry would agree with that. I had an opportunity to take on these 2 locations. I took on Columbia in March of 24 and Gaffney in May of 24. So literally back to back. The only reason I was able to do that is because the corporate location in Gaffney already had an employee. So I would not have been able to take that over without him. And I would not have been able to do what I did this year without my team back in North Carolina holding down the fort. So it is definitely a team effort. We all work together. We all communicate, during the weeks and stuff. And I appreciate the congratulations. Definitely been a lot of work for sure.
Hey man, it is. It is. But, you're right. 2024 has been, there's ebbs and flows, and we've definitely experienced some of those in 2024, especially after the height of COVID, where
Yeah.
we saw government subsidy readily available, and people at home tending to their gardens, wanting a new garden shed, or just maybe the influx of government money
Yeah.
into the, it always comes down to, is a government money being infiltrated into the economy that's boosting the economy, or is it private sector money
Yeah.
boosting the economy? And you can get into so many debates. And I think it's, and we do. I talk to so many shed people in my travels. That some of the best podcasts that we have will never be recorded, unfortunately. 'Cause I wish you guys could hear all of the conversations that I've had with some people, because sometimes we're sitting there trying to solve the world's problems, and we're talking about, trying to sell sheds, and we somehow end up in this deep conversation about the nature of politics, and how
Right.
the nature of the federal government has a direct impact, or at least trickle down impact to some extent, on our small place in the world. And you forget, you're like, wait a minute, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Do I need to concentrate on who's president in the office and how they're doing things and changing stuff? Or do I just need to get in here and rise and grind, right? I need to get in here
Right.
and work, and so it's always interesting to me, because how you do anything is how you do everything, whether it's in the shed world or whether you was in some other world, like
Yeah.
yeah. So
That I think is 100% true. I mean, you know, whether whichever side you fall on politically, I think everybody in 2024, whether they wanted to admit it or not, was just holding tight to the purse strings. And I think that I have friends in other industries, in real estate, and mortgages, and mobile homes, and horse trailers. I mean, I got a good buddy that does horse trailers. So everybody had a like what in the world kind of year, and I think it did tie to the election because there was so much focus on that. I'm hoping that now that the election's over with, we can kind of get back to some kind of normalcy. And like I said, there's not a lot of people that come in and say I'm holding on to my money because of the election. It's just that you kind of just feel that that urge to not spend. And that's the first time I've been through an election year in business. And like I said, it was definitely a tough year, but learned a lot of lessons, and learned a lot what to do, what not to do. So I will say that I'll be ready for the next one, no
and
matter what happens.
yeah, it was definitely a year of learning. And that's the thing, was that the Apostle Paul always says that we should always be in a learning state of mind. So like we're trying to do that over here too at Shed Geek. We're always trying to better ourselves and our different brands and things like that. And I'll tell you what amazed me. I learned something today that just not today, but this year, 2024 rather, that blew my socks off. And we had been looking for investment for rent on. We come across a gentleman, excellent guy. I love talking to him, and he told me he's not familiar with the shed world, but he said I am familiar with the rent own side of how people do things, because we actually rent own cattle to farmers. And I was like, what?
Well,
This is something I have not heard of.
I would never have guessed that.
It was a new one on me. And
Yeah.
all the terms and the different things and the ideas all sounded very similar to what we hear. Never in my wildest, what I have imagined that's a real business. But Austin, people find that out about the shed side
Yeah.
to whenever you go deliver a building. They had no idea there was this different machines that, you know what I mean, can move a building around, whether it's a Cardinal Mule, or
Right.
whether it's a trailer, or the new guys with the Challenger. We love their product and what they're doing, even the easy movers, all of it. people see those things and they go, wow, these things are unusual. These are neat.
Yeah.
These are different ideas and different tools, but really just the shed itself. They're amazed a lot of times at the quality that exists.
Hello, shed sellers. Let's take a moment to discuss the shed customer and meeting their expectations. I remember growing up in the neighborhood where a certain percentage of the houses had well-manicured lawns and well-manicured homes. These were the type of individuals who felt it was important to purchase a well-constructed home or vehicle, or maybe equipment to help maintain the quality of the item. As shed manufacturers, we seek to provide a well-built quality shed. We want the customer to feel satisfied that their hard-earned money has been well spent on a product that will last. At LuxGuard, we believe adding high-quality rubber flooring to your line of sheds makes sense to the customer and adds value the customer can appreciate. With each year, sheds are becoming more complex. The customizations we are seeing are virtually endless. LuxGuard not only gives a complimentary aesthetic appearance for their shed, but also protects the floor from spills and keeps cleanup simple. Offer your customer the customer service they seek with LuxGuard. At LuxGuard, we are committed to delivering exceptional customer service and innovative products to help our customers achieve their goals. We strive to meet the evolving needs of the customers. To speak with one of our ready-to-serve customer product specialists, simply call 336-468-4311. To see our product and view an installation video, just visit our website at luxguard.com. LuxGuard, the floor that lasts a lifetime.
What do you take pride in terms of like your partnership with your supplier, but really even what is your position as Austin, the owner of Yardscape? What's like your message to your customers, like whenever they come in?
I would say the number one thing that I feel like we do differently, and I'm sure everybody would probably say this about themselves, is, we want to provide a quality product. Pineview provides that for us. And same thing with the metal manufacturers we work with provide a quality product and at a good price. So I would say that would be our number one, is to try to help people solve their problems, whether that be, storage, home office, home gym. We've had people use it for a bunny rescue, a pig rescue. I mean, the whole gambit of things. So helping people solve problems has always been a big thing for me. I love helping people solve their problems. And we have a solution that can help. The other side that I try to do differently and how we operate, and what we hear from customers that come in is, people that are shopping, they come in and say, well, you're the first person that came out and talked to me. You're the first person that's been here, when I've been here. Now, of course, we miss people absolutely all the time, but we've heard that over and over again. We try to give the best customer service, and I know that that's cliche to say, but we try to give the best customer service that we possibly can give. We try to meet people, out on the lot. We want to go out there and show you the buildings. We want to tell you about the quality. We want to educate you at the end of the day about why you should buy from us. So that, I feel like, is our number two or number three, niche, I guess you could say, in the market, is that, this industry, when I came into it, I feel like there was a lot of people that, just had a lot and they were running it and they did a good job, but they didn't really have the growth mindset. And not saying that that's a bad thing, but they just didn't, I guess, want to grow. And I had the exact opposite, where I wanted it to be a business that I could, grow and essentially shake up the industry and just kind of show people that, hey, we're different. We want to educate you. We're very honest. We're very transparent. And I think that's what sets us apart. We get that across all 4 locations, is people are just shocked that we're actually there and we actually show up, which in my mind is like, sales 101. But I guess, it's not a common thread in some other dealers and everything. So I feel like that's what sets us apart. And I feel like that's one of the things that we do that really kind of separates us from the crowd.
Just being present a lot of times. I remember when we used to track our when I was selling, we would track our traffic to the website, and we always took very serious the idea of like what works, right? Because you're always trying to track your marketing and your advertising to figure out where are my dollars best spent. And
Right.
we were asking a gentleman one day, we said, there's three people to choose from here close to us. What made you choose us? And this was a Saturday. And he said, well, you're the only one open.
Yeah.
Like, I'd like to tell you that, like maybe your buildings are better than theirs, but I don't even know enough about them to tell you that. I was just happy you guys were open because I needed to get this done today because I work Monday through Friday.
Absolutely. And we work Saturdays as well. And we get that all the time. Now, I think some other dealers are kind of waking up to that. But I think when I first started, it definitely, and then when I kind of started, it was COVID, and then it felt like everybody dove into the industry during COVID because they saw that there was a good potential to make good money. But at the same token, my reason or why to jump into the business is because I've always wanted to run my own business. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and this was the opportunity I had. So I took it probably a lot differently than some people that just kind of jumped in to jump in. And I'm sure you've seen where people start a dealership and it's gone in 6 months or gone in 8 months or 10 months. And trust me, I've had a dealership like that. I had 3 in my first year, actually. But the third one just didn't pan out. It just wasn't, the best location, just sales weren't there. So I'm not faulting anybody, but at the same token, there has been a lot of people jump in and then jump back out of the industry. It's kind of like real estate where people saw the peak of it, and then I jumped in it not because there was a lot of money. Like, truth be told, I jumped in it. I didn't know anything about the industry. I just knew that I had an opportunity to start a business that I could grow, and that I worked with a factory that wanted us to grow together. And that's kind of how my mindset was going into it. And I think that's, I'm hoping that that's the reason why we're still around today. And I'm hoping that's the reason we'll be around for a long time to come.
I'll tell you one of my favorite things in talking with you pre-recording that was really awesome that I just want to bring up for other guests too, especially for dealers or for manufacturers, depending on how you curate your content and any type of like ad copy that you're doing. If you're putting any kind of reels together, you had mentioned about having a YouTube channel, Facebook page, a website, and you were like, hey, it'd be really neat for us to take parts of this interview or the interview and stick it onto the website. And I want to talk about why that's really important is because in today's age, in the digital world, where people are scrolling through social media, whether it be, Facebook or Instagram or, Snapchat or Linked or, any of them. But then also, those who are, going to a search engine like Google or even, using YouTube for that, right? Like, second largest search engine in the world at this point. If you're doing that, you're searching for particular things, or you're scrolling through leisurely in your social media and things that things are showing up. You're able to use things like this interview whenever I ask you, hey, what is your message to your customer, to create a whole bunch of short form video content for your YouTube channel, to put it on your website. And I hope that a guest is listening to this today because, we take great pride at Shed Geek in being, a leading podcast, the only podcast that I'm aware of in the industry that really focuses on B2B. And we want to get your message out to your customers. So when you come on here, it's not as though you're just coming on here to talk sheds and talk about stuff that's fun. All that stuff's fun, but there's actually a value proposition to it for you that you can download this. We can send you a video file. You can go make a ton of content just from this. And I've done 300 interviews, Austin, 300 interviews at
Wow,
this point.
that's a lot of interviews.
And maybe 5 people have understood the message that and you were the one that brought it up to me. You're like, hey, I'll chop this thing up. We'll make some good content. And here we have to educate people most often, which nothing wrong with that. I was just so proud that like you mentioned it to me, like I want to get you this episode quickly because I'm like, yeah, man, you should be sending this out. You should be telling your customer. I mean, you should be doing your own podcast if you want to. I mean, you should be doing whatever it is you want to do to get in front of your customer, YouTube channel, just, a lot of video. Video is so underutilized in the shed industry because you're selling a product.
Right.
And people want to see that product. That's why 3D configurators have been such a massive explosion in our industry, is because people like, it's a lot better than 2D, where I sit
Then
here
just
and write
drawing,
it out on
yeah.
this piece of paper, and I'm like, well, the wall will be here, and yeah,
Right.
it'll look like this, but you can actually envision it, and then you begin to dream with them, and it's in their backyard before you know it. So kudos to you for
I
mentioning that.
appreciate
It really made my day.
This is James Price of Shed Pro on Faith in Business. It is all too common for us to hear these days that business is bad, that capitalism is exploiting people. Sure, bad businesses exist, and yes, capitalism has caused many terrible exploitations around the world, but we shouldn't lose focus on the fact that entrepreneurs, like each of you, are heroes of today. Let me give you a few examples of what capitalism and entrepreneurship has accomplished over the last 200 years. 200 years ago, 85% of the world's population lived in extreme poverty. Now, only 16%. Life expectancy jumped from an average of 30 years to now 68 years. We went from a world of almost complete illiteracy to now 84% of adults can read. Globally, the average income has increased by over 1,000%. John Mackay said it wonderfully. Entrepreneurs solve problems by creatively envisioning different ways the world could and should be. With their imagination, creativity, passion, and energy, they are the greatest creators of widespread change in the world. The world needs each of you. God has called you to create. As an entrepreneur, you've experienced the invigorating power that comes from helping customers, suppliers, and investors. You actually enjoy solving problems. And success is when you can see the fruit of the work of your hands. We have been created in the image of an entrepreneurial God. Creating something out of nothing is common practice for God. That same spirit is within us as we create something out of nothing every day within our businesses. We're all called to create. It is our choice to use that creative problem-solving energy within each of us and pour it into our communities to benefit others and to glorify God. This is James Price. Thanks for listening.
My background is, the old saying, jack of all trades, master of none. So I've done a little bit of everything when it comes to sales and marketing. And, when it comes to the side of things, I started my YouTube channel touring modular and manufactured homes back when nobody was really touring it. I wish that the circumstances would have worked out a little differently. Internally, I was just kind of limited to what I could tour just because of the company. But at the same token, I'm kind of glad that happened, because I wouldn't be here today talking to you. So, it panned out, but at the same token, I haven't, and like I said before, that's one thing I want to focus on this year is to really start trying to ramp up a consistent schedule with YouTube videos and everything, whether that's just talking like we are, or, just education about the products or whatever it may be. I'd love to do that. But that, just like, it takes time. And when you're a single entrepreneur, you kind of have to focus on what makes you money. And right now the business is
I've told people before, I'm sure that, you figure we're just getting on here and talking, and it's really that simple. Snap of your fingers and boom, it's a podcast. Right. There's we have four people that work full time just publishing, editing, loading things. I mean, that doesn't even get into our whole marketing world where there's 10 to 13 people working on continuous projects, another four or five in rentals, another three or four on the financing side that we work with. And you're trying to navigate this whole world of all these different things and all these different people. And yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into not just work, but education,
Yeah,
just to be able to know what cameras to buy, know what frames are necessary, understanding the ad deliverables on all the different media outlets. And then that's not even what your message is about. These are just the things you have to learn to show
right,
your message, because we take for granted that we're in the shed industry and we understand what a gambrel roof is, or we
right.
understand that maybe a non-lofted has approximately 8 foot sidewalls, and then you got to shorten the doors on your gambrels, and they're like, what about metal versus, I mean, I'm looking at
Yeah,
your website and there's metal and shingled roofs, there's ridge vents, there's these windows. Oh no, are these windows single pane, double pane? How's the construction? What does
yeah.
16 OC mean?
There's
How
so much.
get
There's so
delivered?
much.
You can show all that content
Right.
through YouTube and through video, but it's a bit of a production, honestly,
Yeah,
to make a lot of that stuff happen. But you're doing it, man. Like, you're doing that, and you're dedicated to that for your customers, and it's exciting to see people sort of embrace that, because we get left behind in the shed world sometimes when we don't sort of embrace the way consumers decide to shop in other areas,
yeah.
because we're kind of stuck in our ways. I mean, that's
Well, yeah, and that's another thing, like just to give advice, one thing that I learned uh, is, embrace technology and embrace, how things are, embrace change basically, because if you don't, for example, I was just talking with my marketing guy today that handles the back end, and it's just like, okay, I was talking with some of my salespeople, and we were like, okay, well, when we were boosting marketplace for this particular person, all she was getting was spam. But now that we've stopped because we took a break during the holidays, now she's getting actual people messaging her and asking questions. So it's just little things like that to kind of just pay attention to say, okay, well, we're gonna hold off. We're gonna take a minute and see where that leads, and if it doesn't work, then we'll pivot and change again. So I think having the I think the shed industry itself, and that's one reason why I love Pineview. And now you guys are kind of working with them a little bit. They do embrace technology. They embrace change. They embrace new products and new styles and new colors and all those things. And that is what grabs people's attention. I think another reason that people do buy from us is, of course, location. We're nearby, but at the same token, when they are comparing, we get that a lot is like, oh, well, I love the style, or I love that shape, or I love the colors that you have, or that we can customize a color and match your house, or all those things, all those little things that really kind of add up to making the difference and making the buying decision easier. And one thing that I learned from other industries just watching is that if you could be a leader in education prior to the customer ever seeing y'all, we might have a customer that starts looking at our content 2 years and then coming by. So is it a long game? Absolutely. Absolutely. Is it a lot of time, effort, and money? Absolutely. But I think, like, to your point, is you started this during COVID, and now you've grown it over time, and you're kind of the shed podcast that people would go to in my industry that want to learn more. Whenever I heard about you guys, I immediately went and watched a few episodes like we talked about. So I love that there's content out there that's geared towards us.
I'll tell you a couple of things that you said there. First, love working with everybody over there. Chad, the whole crew, man, they're just excellent people. And it's an excellent building. It's really, you know what I mean? Like it's a staple in that region. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? And they just absolutely have done a phenomenal job. They're excellent people, very cordial, very kind, very polite to work with. So we'll start there. And they make an excellent building, which is really awesome because you want to be able to stand behind that. Beyond that, yes, just the podcast itself, what a blessing to have the opportunity to do that. But it just goes to show that, to your point, if you embrace new ideas, I had no idea what this thing was going to turn out. It started as a labor of love, it turned into a career, right?
Yeah,
A little different when you're doing it because you just,
because you like it.
yeah, and then you're like, oh, I got to do it for work.
Well, that's what I did for YouTube. I just like filming houses. I love houses. So I just started filming it one day, and then we started posting it, and it just took off. I wish I would have stuck with it, but at the same time, like I said, God just had a kind of a different path, and that's fine.
It led you to here, man. It led you to
Yeah,
here and the
yeah.
success that you're having.
Get ready for a sales revolution. Introducing Making Sales Simple, a complete online training course that unleashes the power of sales mastery, anytime, anywhere, on any device. Designed to transform anyone into a shed selling success, Making Sales Simple guides you through the entire sales cycle, from the moment a customer steps onto the lot all the way through the crucial art of closing the deal. But that's not all. Our course equips you to expertly handle follow-ups, how to advertise your lot on social media, and supercharge your sales like never before. Enroll your sales team in the game-changing Making Sales Simple training course and witness a remarkable boost in sales right on the lot. Do you have a large team of salespeople? Manage and monitor each one through the sleek admin panel. Track their progress, dive into quiz results, and ensure they're not just learning, but mastering their newfound sales skills in real-world scenarios. Join our happy customers and witness your shed lots transform into thriving hubs. Sign up your entire team today. Unlock big savings with the code SGSAVE, because your team's success deserves nothing less.
Sometimes the path that you start out and you set out on paper, it doesn't quite look the same by the time
Right.
you go the actual path to get there. But you
Right.
know what, man, you're doing an excellent job, and it is really going good for you, and I'm super happy for you, and I'm really, more than anything, I'm happy that you sort of embrace the ideas of the sales, the way the sales um what am I trying to say here? Not sales industry, but because that just sounds too broad.
Yeah.
But the way sales in general does begin to navigate away from even some of your more traditional roots. I'll give you an example. Something I dealt with this week is, I had somebody reach out and they say one of the hardest things that we're dealing with, is we need marketing. We got 27 locations,
Oh my gosh.
right?
I thought 4 was bad.
We had 27 locations,
Oh,
now this is from a manufacturer perspective, right?
okay.
But,
Okay.
but
Okay.
but they said we got 27, and we have some dealers who are excellent salespeople. Okay, but they need to go through an SOP manual just to learn how to turn on the computer. And they were making
Yeah.
a joke, and I was like, I get it. My dad carries a flip phone. He couldn't,
Yeah.
there's no way he would understand, some of the dynamics of technology without learning them and without going through the struggle to learn them. However, that doesn't mean that you can't learn it. But what's the hardest is like when you have 5 of the 27 who are really understand it well, and they can pull on the power of the digital platform
Right.
to increase their sales with half the effort, because you don't have to get people to the lot to be
Right.
able to sell, or you at least start your journey online before you get them to the lot. It's almost like you don't want to lose the two different things. If you've got here, I'll get politically incorrect here for a minute. You got a really geeky person that just understands the technology. Perhaps they lose a little personality
Right.
because we call them a geek, right? Like me, a shed
Yeah.
geek, right? you lose a little personality. But then you got these men and women that have tons of personality. They're very experienced in dealing with customer service. But then they struggle a little bit maybe on the tech side
Yeah.
because they focus really on the relationship side. And we just seem to be in this weird place of like trying to mend the two of them.
Well, and I raise my hand at that because, you know, I'm okay at technology. I don't say that that's a strong suit of mine, but I think, another piece of advice would be surround yourself with people that are better at the things that you're not good at. If that's a possibility, I know that that could be costly, and I will say this: for the first 2.5, almost 3 years, I didn't have a marketing person. We didn't have a good website. We didn't have all those things, but we kind of, going back to my prior point, is you kind of shift and change with the tides. We were on that rise of COVID. We killed it in 21 and 22, and then 23 started to dip a little bit. So I was able to kind of say, let's take a step back and say, okay, we're not getting the retail traffic that we were. How do we continue that or make online sales? So I had to find someone and take that risk and pay them, to help me build out the website that you see today. And we're still not done. We've got a long road ahead. I always have heard, from other people in different industries is if you could get the website to 80%, you're golden. So you'll never be complete with a website. So, and I feel like we're there, and I feel like him being the SEO more, behind the scenes, I guess you would say geeky, even though I don't see him as geeky. He's also a realtor, so he's kind of a mix like I am. But he knows stuff that I don't know. And, we kind of collaborate. Like I said, we talked earlier, and figure out, okay, this is working. Here's the data. That's working. That's not working. And I didn't have that, like I said, for 2.5, almost 3 years of the company, just because I just couldn't afford it. I mean, we were were on a shoestring budget, and now
you have to work inside your budget, and you also have to be willing to learn and grow. And you also have to be willing to invest in things. I tell people all the time,
that was an investment.
you can't sell a shed without investing in the lumber or the windows, So, I tend to take a look at these different things like, you buy a shed trailer so that you can move it. So, so you can make money on it. It's the same thing in the digital world, as you begin to do these things like creating a website or something like that. And that's just one part of it, as you said. A lot of people are struggle with getting a website, and they figure once I finally do that, that'll be the solution to all my problems. But then there's a whole other host of things like SEO, as you mentioned. Really setting up your tags so that you can track the performance of the website, and then bringing all that stuff into somewhere, right? Like we've been really pushing the CRM pretty heavy because it's like, man, do you want to go to your Facebook ads manager, and do you want to chase down your Google leads and your lead forms from your website and your lead configurator, or would you like to have them all in one spot so that it's easy and has a user interface, a simple user interface? So there's a ton of conversation that can be happen there that don't even have anything to do with sheds, right? You're just really trying to build a system and process, so that it's simple, so it's easy, so that your business can move and thrive and succeed.
We've had up and downs with that too. We've tried several CRMs and programs and everything too. So I interrupted you. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. I'm interviewing you. I'm just excited about the conversation because it's really nice to speak with someone who's like, hey, look, we're willing to go down that road, and you do have to operate within your budget. We tell people all the time, if you're not spending at minimum 4% of your revenue on your marketing, and that includes not just your website, but your banners, your brochures, all that stuff. then you're not in line with the majority of companies in the United States. That's not even just shed guys, right?
Right.
That's Coca-Cola, Harley Davidson, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Chick-fil-A, that's anybody else. Like you've got to invest in your future. And the crazy thing is with the dot-com boom, it created this network. And then you think about Bezos and what happened with Amazon and the ability to really be able to go online to just even learn things. Google really beating out all the rest of them. You remember Ask Jeeves and you remember all those
Yeah.
search engines there, and Google really won, didn't it? Right? Like it
Yeah.
really won in terms of like being we think we go to Google. This is one of my favorite things to say. We think we go to Google to get information, but Google goes to all of the rest of these places to get information, and
Just,
then they just become a lead generator. They lead you towards what they have deemed to be the best place based off of your search criteria.
right.
It's right. Like, hey, I need a shovel. Where do I find one? Oh, well, according to our million searches and
Right.
all these this big pool of data that we've had our bots go out and pull, Ace Hardware 2 miles from you, that's the best place to get one. However, here's selection 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.
Right. Yeah.
But we don't really go to get information. They go to get information from us.
That's
And
true.
so it's always fun to like walk through those processes.
Digital Shed Builder is an online shed configurator that strives to provide incredible visual quality, fantastic customer service, and an amazingly low price point, making it a perfect fit for any shed dealer looking to increase their online sales. Digital Shed Builder is simple to use, taking less than 5 minutes to integrate on your site. The Get a Quote feature streamlines your sales process, showing you exactly what your potential customers need. They offer a highly customizable experience that accurately represents your brand and unique shed offerings, working with you directly to set up everything you need in a configurator. With no extra startup cost, no lengthy contracts or commitments, and no hidden fees, Digital Shed Builder has been created with quality, simplicity, and affordability in mind.
I want to touch on something real quick before we get out of here. You said you were in mobile home sales.
Well,
I'm hearing just great things about mobile home sales and some guys that I know that are in that world. Where do you feel like that compares to what your experience has been in the shed industry?
I will say the biggest difference is, and I always made this comparison, mobile home and manufactured housing is real estate. Sheds are car dealerships. So if you throw those two together, that's kind of the correlation I see. Whereas mobile home and manufactured, I may start talking to you today about a home, but if you actually buy from me, you're essentially locked in for 2 years. So what I mean by that is between, when you say, hey, I like this house, I have the land. Let's just say you already have the land. If you don't have the land, then adds another whole, 6 months looking for land. Whereas the sales cycle is extremely long when it comes to mobile home and modular manufacturers. Now they get paid dearly to be able to hold that money the whole time. And, I always, from my previous owner that worked there, he essentially was like, the first 2 to 3 years, you don't make anything because you're waiting for those deals to close. So you've got to have the pockets to withstand those 2 to 3 years. And he did it in the 90s when it wasn't really 2 to 3 years because they weren't tying in land. It was more so like 90 days to a year or 6 months to a year, versus now it truly is that long because you're dealing with the dirt. Whereas even there's even a difference in sales cycle between sheds and metal buildings. Metal buildings are a construction project and you're a project manager. and then sheds are retail. So that to me is what the biggest difference is. Not saying one is better than the other, but you've got to look at it differently. Whereas a shed can be bought and purchased within 30 to 45 minutes and can be delivered within 2 weeks if it's on the lot. Whereas even though you can move pretty quickly with a metal building, it's more of a process than just, hey, I'm done, especially if you're getting a permit. So prime example, you may sell or take a deposit in May and it may not be completed until September. Another prime example is we sold a commercial building in 23 September and it did not get installed until September of 24, a year later, just because of all the litigation and all that other stuff. Now, the lucky and the good thing with that is we got the deposit up front, so it doesn't hold up our money. But at the same token, we operate, in that we want to make sure we see that customer through. So we still had man hours tied up in making sure they got everything that they need. If they needed anything from the factory, checking up on them, seeing how the process was going. So that back end still kind of eats away at your profit margin, so to speak, because you still have that customer in your pipeline until they're completed.
Man, I can't say enough good things about that little 3-minute riff that you just did there. There's so much content in that you can eat on. You could talk on it for another 10 hours, for acquisition time, just that alone.
Yeah.
The customer acquisition and sales cycle you're talking about, because I think that's where consignment dealers a lot of times get in trouble. It's like, hey, here's you got a 2-acre lot, here's 30 buildings. Hey, here's 10%, sell. And then there's nothing after that. There's no training. There's no training on RTO. There's no training on walking that customer through the process as to shortening that sales cycle down to just that one visit, but maybe being a helper in there, because maybe what they need is more than that. Maybe they do just need a shed to show up and they need it for 30 days and then they're going to rent to own it and then send it back because that's all they needed. But that's usually our customers. Typically, they're looking for a garage or a permanent storage solution, but maybe they don't have the cash for it. So maybe they need some rent own options, who knows, or maybe they're paying cash. But that customer acquisition time can be so deceiving because it's impulsive. And we've had people show up. It's like the gum at the end of the Walmart counter. You know what I mean? It's only there because you happen to be there waiting, so you pick up some gum. But you typically go in there and shop for gum. You just it's impulsive. The sodas, anything, little impulse rack that they put there for you. And if you're not careful, you can fall into the trap in that of the customer acquisition and sales cycle from a customer perspective or from a dealer perspective. I just want to sell it and get it out of my hands. But, it might be a custom order that might be 6 weeks out, or, it's at least, 10 days out if they're ordering it off. And you got to work with that customer at least a little bit. But you're right on the customer acquisition time and becoming sort of that GC for your shed guy or your metal building guy. And I can't wait until Jared and Eric get started on Steel Kings and that comes out in March, because they're really going to be addressing a lot of these things and how the steel side differs from our shed world.
Hello, shed sellers. Did you catch the latest Real Work Labs interview with George Converse? If not, don't miss this value-packed episode. Head to Shed Geeks Podcast YouTube and search Real Work Labs. George and the Real Work Labs crew are riding the wave of Google's latest updates, taking your digital presence to the next level. We're tech artisans crafting your neighborhood brand voice for shed sellers like you to stand out, gain trust, and get found online. Our software will easily capture your work snapshots, videos, weave your craft's story, and get reviews all in one virtual experience. Our innovation goes beyond getting found for your business location, rather getting found for your work locations. Reviews intertwine with their corresponding job sites. When potential customers seek local expertise, you're the proven solution they'll find. It's high time to map your reviews and showcase your beautiful work in a meaningful way that builds trust in customers' neighborhoods. Ready for the journey? Visit shedgeek.realworklabs.com or call George today at 480-787-7575. Real Work Labs, elevating your trust, increasing your conversions, and getting you found where you work in the neighborhoods you serve, one shed at a time.
Dude, there's so much I even wanted to talk about. I sent a question on Shed Sales Professionals today that talked about rent to own. Is there anybody that does rent to own? It's my good buddy, John Newcomb up in Cadillac, Michigan. And he was asking about, does anybody do rent to own on tiny homes? And I kind of answered the question real quick. And I thought you'd probably have a lot of good thoughts on how rent to own versus sheds versus the compliance issue that you run into in mobile homes and real estate and things like that. So I need to have a real estate guy on. I keep getting calls from my buddy Duncan Smith down in the Boot Hill or down in the Ozarks, down in Missouri. Duncan, if you're listening to this, I hope he's going to send me another email or going to send me another voice recording. I'm gonna have to play these for you guys. He sent me 30 of them, and he's high energy. Hey, it's Duncan. I want to tell you about this and that. You guys go check out his YouTube channel.
I wish I had that much energy.
It depends on the day, brother.
Yeah,
It depends on the day. But I want to end this interview with this. We'll see you next week. We'll be out there on the 15th. I love what you're doing. I can't wait to meet you. My question to you is one that I haven't got to ask in a while. We took 2 weeks off around Christmas this year. It's the first time we've done that and not put a show out during the holidays. But we're back. We're in full steam. We can't wait to create content for 2025 that you guys are going to enjoy, like today's episode. But my question to you is the same thing that I ask everybody else that comes on the show. In full disclosure, I've been spent this time asking you questions, grilling you, asking you your thoughts, details, your predictions over the future and all that.
My crystal ball.
Yeah, my question to you is, do you have any questions for me? Shed Geek, podcast related, marketing, sales, rent own, I don't care. I'll answer it to the best of my ability in full transparency. And I may get it wrong. And if I do, come on and challenge me. Anybody, I'd love for you to get on here and educate me. I'm always looking to know more. So, but if you have any questions at all?
I would say, I guess one thing that is interesting. We had talked, and you had bringing Pineview on to help them with the SEO and all of that fun jazz. What got you more interested, I guess, in this side of things versus still becoming a dealer or staying a dealer during that time, since you did quit like right before COVID? I'm just curious. I always had to ask. I have to ask.
No, it's a great question. I took a unnatural path toward things like marketing. I had worked selling sheds. And man, I was just all in. I genuinely was, I went and visited my neighbors, the other people who sewed sheds. And I began to realize, like, wait a minute, there's this big storage unit behind us and they're getting all the business, right? Shed guys are losing out to the storage units because people see the value in just going and paying rent to leave something there for 2 years just to turn around and either leave it behind or build no extra. And I thought, man, wouldn't it be nice to just get a shed delivered right there to your backyard where it's simple, easy, clean? And, I had worked in procurement, purchasing for a large company, and kind of saw how it worked. But I just got super interested in figuring out how to reach customers. And the more I dove into it, the more I realized social media, websites, all these different things. So I took a very unnatural path towards that. Got connected with Dylan. He actually started in our shed office, so the president of Shed Geek Marketing. But I went and worked in rent to own, started learning a lot about that world, and now learning a lot more about finance and essentially what you're trying to do is create a lead. And then the sales side of the world really grabbed me too. Like how do you walk through the sales cycle, the sales process? What's it look like? How do we differ from other industries? You mentioned, something on that here today between, how we match the car industry versus the real estate industry because
Yeah.
customer acquisition is shorter. We took that approach even in our marketing. Like we don't call and tell people, let's just price shop, let's just hurry up and try to get your business. We spend an hour with them minimum talking about their needs, and we even ask them in their broken language to tell us what they understand marketing to be or rent to own to be. We're educators at heart. That's why the tagline's been education through entertainment over here at the podcast. We don't win them all. We don't get everybody's business. We shouldn't. We don't expect that. We know that we're not for everybody, but it's exciting to be able to just be transparent. There's a lot of freedom that's offered in being able to do that. So I still love selling sheds, but the only way I would do it at this point would be to use our own internal marketing, maybe use some type of lead gen source like Shed Hub or something along those lines. Use something so that I could pull everything in, organize it into a CRM, and maybe not limit myself to selling in a 30 or 50-mile radius, kind of like I had before. Not that that was
You
bad.
have
I'm not
to.
no
You have
disrespect
to.
towards that model,
No.
but I think we have the knowledge to be able to sell on a national scale, probably.
Yeah.
So far, I just really haven't done that because I enjoy this ride, I guess. I take what God gives me. You know what I mean? Like I just try to stay
I
open
get,
to what's in front of me. I don't necessarily want to compete with my listeners, and if I did, I would never do it in a way that would take their dealer network. They've already established that. I had somebody say that recently. Say, well, you want their dealer network? I don't. I don't want their dealer network. I don't want anybody's dealer network. That's like we could accomplish way more without having to stumble through working with dealers. But I guess right now, I just really enjoy helping people. I'm a Zig Ziglar guy.
I got you.
Help others get what they want so you can get
Yeah.
what you want. Leaders eat last. That's what Simon Sinek says. He's got a book,
Yeah.
Let Leaders Eat Last.
No,
And
that's a good point. I mean,
I
that's
just uh I
a
just
good point.
enjoy helping other people. We make a good living if we help others,
Absolutely.
you know?
Well, and that goes back to what I said earlier is like literally at the end of the day, even when I was doing cars or mobile homes, I sold cars for a little while too. Um, at the end of the day, it was trying to meet that need and trying to help someone. And, I wanted to run a company, obviously, so I could make good money and have a good living and be successful, just like at the root of anything else. But also create career paths for people,
Yes.
that could potentially make decent money. Um, I'm still working on, trying to grow our online presence. And here's why we're here today is, trying to make sure that, when you think of sheds in the Carolinas, you think of us.
Yeah.
And our brand and everything like that. And same thing with the metal, just on a larger scale. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Is at the end of the day, we're in business to help people to solve their problems when it comes to storage. And I like that you brought up that the big guys down the street are getting all the deals, and that is 100% true. If you were to drive down the road where I live and up in North Carolina, they are building storage units, I think, every half mile. At least it seems that way. And it's because everybody's living in neighborhoods and everybody's living in communities that are really tight together. So when you have a boat or when you have this or have that, you can't fit it in your yard because everybody has a postage stamp now. Back to the real estate thing, it's just really tight. So I will say the good thing, is that with the new machinery and everything like that, you're able to get into spaces that you used to not be able to. So I think we've found good luck with that and selling into these HOAs and neighborhoods and stuff.
I'll tell you this, I've made those who've partnered with me way more money than I've made myself. So it's not about money. There's also a sense of purpose and dedication to your work, and there should be a
Yeah.
sense of purpose to your work. And if you don't feel that, then you're in the wrong industry, right? Like if you don't feel satisfied helping your customers find storage solutions, you know, go somewhere else, go somewhere that fulfills you personally,
Yeah.
makes you happy. So I do enjoy helping others, and that's why I said I'm a zig guy. I love to see others prosper. I love to see others do well. Um, that excites me, and I believe that what I'm owed and what I'm due to be able to help others do that has been just fine for me and my family. We feel very satisfied. We don't
Oh
feel
yeah.
taken advantage of. We feel, we're doing better than we ever have, So, I mean, why would I complain about continuing to be a giver? Because
Yeah.
I'm doing a speech coming up. Man, I'm chewing on this, Austin. I can't wait. I'm doing a keynote speaking event in Millersburg, Ohio, in February. And I just got this burning inside of me to talk about being what it means to be a giver and to give away as opposed to being a taker. You can accomplish a lot more through the power of networking and helping others get what they want. You'll always be able to get what you want, but if you put yourself first, then you're not a leader who's eating last. You're a leader who's eating first. I think I'll let you go on this. I think I read something that said somebody said, "Well, our customers are always right. They're the ones that we make the happiest." And somebody else said, "It's not your customers you should make happy. It's your employees. Your employees will make your customers happy. And if you make your employees
Yeah.
happy, they will make sure your customers are happy."
No, I agree with that. I've worked for both where that was the focus, and then I've worked where that wasn't. And you definitely want to, uh, stick with the person that treats you right. So I've tried, and I'm sure there's people out there that have worked for me that would disagree, but I have tried my best to try to take care of people that work for me and that, spend time away from their families to have a career and selling sheds. So,
I'll tell you
yeah,
what, Austin,
I agree.
we all got those that would disagree with us, but that was the path to get us to where we are today, brother. I am
Yeah.
so I am so privileged to meet you and to work alongside you. And I can't say thank you enough for sitting down with me today. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I hope it was simple. And
Absolutely.
you know what? You're a sales guy, so it should be easy to sit down and talk shit. And I thank you for it. Can't wait to meet you in person
Yeah.
next week while we're out there. We're going to go attend the second day of the uh, Garage Shed Carport Builder Show on the 16th down in Greenville. The day after, we're out there with you guys, and we're going to get some interviews while we're out there in North Carolina in person. But I can't wait to meet you. Can't wait to see Howie again while we're out there, and just can't say thank you enough for the partnership that we've been able to establish with you guys, and wishing you the best 2025, the best year you've ever had, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, I'd love to come back on and talk more. And yeah, absolutely looking forward to meeting everybody next week on, I think it's Wednesday, right? Yeah,
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yep. Yep. Well, let's make it happen, man. We'll do a round two.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Thanks,
Sound-
Austin. Appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely.
Hey, this is Mo Lunsford in sunny Union Grove, North Carolina, and we want to say thank you to all the guests and listeners.